This weekend, the Canadiens cut, and they cut deep. Not only did they cut 24 players right after the game versus the Leafs on Saturday night, they add another 5 to the waiver list they cleared, leaving 34 players in camp with just 4 spots remaining. Let's talk some puck. Hey gang, Costa here from Puck Talk Montreal. Welcome to a brand new episode for this September 30th, 2025. And of course, as always, let's talk right off the cuff about our sponsor, InstaCustom. InstaCustoms is your number one destination for custom apparel printing. They're the highest rated print shop in Canada with over 3,000 Google reviews, a 4.9 star rating, and they were nominated for a 2024 Canadian Business Choice Award. They print on all your favorite clothing, t-shirts, hoodies, polos, plus hats, beanies, tote bags, even coffee and travel mugs, and yes, they also offer embroidery. Most orders are printed and shipped the very same day, and large orders in less than 3 days with free shipping. Open 7 days a week. They're located in downtown Montreal on Stanley Street. Easy to remember because it ties in with the Canadiens' ultimate goal of winning the Stanley Cup. So whether it's for yourself, a loved one, or your business, trust InstaCustoms. Visit us in person or order online at instacustoms.com. So as we mentioned, Saturday night, 24 players, including Joshua Roy, going down to the Laval Rocket, plus another 5 that went down on Sunday, or went on waivers on Sunday, I should say. Sean Farrell, Alex Belzil, Luca Candata, Clermont, and Mark Del Gaizo. And of course, all of those guys clear on Monday, leaving 34 players left in camp. Now you're going to ask yourself, 34 is a big number considering the Canadiens can only carry 23. Interestingly enough, there are only 4 spots left. One of them being the backup goaltender, and that, of course, is going to be a battle between Jakub Dobeš and Kapanen. So we're not going to really look at that all that much. They're both going to end up playing the next couple of games. We'll see where it goes from there. But when you look at the other positions, it's going to be difficult to figure out who exactly is going to stay based on their performance, because there are other mitigating factors that may very well influence the Canadiens' decision. Now, if we take a look at the list, we've got up front, we've got Beck, Black, Kapanen, Veleno, and Florian Xhekaj. Now, I fully expect Florian Xhekaj to be sent down to the minors. I don't think he's got a snowball's chance to make the team this year, but I've been wrong before. I'd love to see him stay in the lineup. I'd love to see him be there as a backup to his own brother as far as chucking the knuckles and being able to defend his teammates. But when you take a look up and down the list, you've got Owen Beck and Oliver Kapanen, 2 guys that aren't waiver eligible as yet. They can go down to the Rocket without an issue, just like Xhekaj. And then you've got Joe Veleno and Samuel Blais. Personally, I don't think Blair or Veleno are going to be allowed to go to waivers because the Canadiens are going to be worried about them being picked up by another team, especially in the case of Blais. Veleno, he's a redemption project. He's got a lot to prove. Our team may very well pick him up depending on how he does in the next game or two. But overall, I think the 2 spots will most likely go to Blais and Veleno because the Canadiens went through the trouble of acquiring them during the offseason. Thing about Beck, though, and Kapanen, they both played very well. Kapanen looking good between Ivan Demidov and Patrick Laine. And then, of course, Owen Beck doing his thing on the third line looked good as well. So it remains to be seen exactly what Marty St. Louis is going to do. Then when you take a look at the defense is another story with Engstom, Arbor Xhekaj, Struble, Larocque, and Trudeau. Now, Larocque and Trudeau are the 2 guys that I expect to go right down to the AHL, which leaves Xhekaj, Struble, and Engstom. Engstom, another guy that can go down without waivers, and he's a guy that's really impressed in this camp. He's looked very good. But what do? Right? You can carry 7 defensemen. You can carry 13, 14 forwards and 2 goaltenders. Or do the Canadiens carry 13 forwards and 8 defensemen? There's an interesting dilemma. What do? Is Engstom really going to be good enough to make that leap to the NHL? And the thing is, do you really want to carry 8 defensemen so you're sitting 2 every night? I don't know if that's the direction the Canadiens want to go in. When it comes to forwards, it's a little bit more normal to be able to sit them out as opposed to 2 defensemen at a time, right? Because then you ask yourself, How often are they going to get back into the lineup? Will Engstrom still get minutes? Will Struble? Will Xhekaj? If guys are playing well, oftentimes coaches don't like to mess with a winning formula. So what do? It's difficult to say. Obviously, given the fact that Arber Xhekaj got an A in the last exhibition game, I think he's really impressed Marty St. Louis, as I mentioned before, with his maturity and his gameplay, because he's a lot more mobile on his feet. Now, granted, he made a couple of mistakes. They weren't egregious. One led to a goal, but it wasn't so much a mistake as it was a good forecheck by William Nylander. So what do? You tell me. I know what most of you guys are going to say. You're going to put in the comments you want both Xhekajs in the lineup. Listen, I don't have a problem with that per se, but I would prefer when you make your comments, do them objectively without looking at the popularity side of things, right? Because popularity can really blind people, right? Especially when it comes to their favorite hockey team. So think about it as in terms of the guys on the list. Here it is again, just for you guys to go over it. Beck, Blais, Kapanen, Veleno, Florian Xhekaj. Of those 5, who do you want to see take up 2 spots at forward? It's a question to be asked. Defensively, if the Canadiens decide to go with 2 defensemen and carry 8 for the season, who would be the 3 that you would keep? Obviously, we'd keep Engstrom. Obviously, we'd keep Xhekaj. Obviously, we'd keep Struble. But why? If you can justify why keeping 8 defensemen on the team is a smart idea, let me know. Now, obviously, if there's an injury, somebody could come up. So you can always send a guy down to the American Hockey League like an Engstrom, and then the minute somebody gets injured, you send them up. And that's always feasible. And that's, I think, the most responsible direction the Montreal Canadiens can take. But then again, in today's press conference, and I didn't cut it for you guys to see, but you can go take a look at it on YouTube, on the Canadiens media channel. And Marty St. Louis was asked consistently because of the jerseys that guys were wearing on the ice at practice. You had red, white, and blue. Blue being the guys that may very well not play. And everybody was asking, is this your final lineup? Are the guys in blue going to be, gone at the end of the week? And Marty St. Louis kept on answering, I don't know. To which another reporter said, well, you're really giving short answers today, right? We're really spoiled in Montreal in the sense that Marty St. Louis isn't ignorant and he isn't a prick to turn around and just walk out like a John Tortorella would. So at the end of the day, take it for what it is. Stop pointing out stupid stuff to the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Because one day he may very well, you know what? You're going to ask a dumb question. He may very well just get up and leave and pull a Torts, especially given the fact that St. Louis played for him before. So he knows how Torts treated the media. He's trying not to, right? You see him out there, he's giggling, he's laughing, he's making jokes. And today he gave a really honest answer as far as what's happening with the players and his decision. He said, you get to a point where, yes, October the 8th is the cutoff. But then it's a cutoff for the regular season, but it's not a cutoff for the entire season. So what's good on the 8th may not be good on the 12th. So you may change that up right away. You may wait another week. He doesn't know. And he said it himself. He doesn't know. And the one factor that he brought in that's really important is the fact that he said he's got a lot of options this year, and that's something he didn't have to work with in previous seasons. There's a recognition of the talent that he's got on this team and the different variables that he can put in place. That's a good thing. So instead of reporters pressing him for longer answers, because if it would have been me, honestly, and somebody would have said, you're giving out really short answers today, instead of saying, well, you know what, I can't really answer you long-winded because I'm not sure. That's what St. Louis said. I would have just said, yes, and moved on from there. So, again, ask a relevant question and don't make a comment about the coach's attitude or what he's doing on a particular day because, like many people, you don't know what's happening, right? He's there to give you a little bit of news, but leave Marty alone. Like, seriously, he's got work to do, and he's trying to put his best foot forward and the best team on the ice for our enjoyment. So asking him an asinine question like that, like you're giving short answers today, it's a little arrogant on the reporter's part. But again, that's just my opinion. It's not everybody that thinks that way, but I just think stick to the facts, Stick to the hockey. Don't mention the coach's attitude. It kind of works better for you. Now, speaking of options for the Montreal Canadiens, we're going to take a look at some of the younger guys that made their first appearance and had their firsts in the leagues that they played in. But before we do that, let's talk about our next sponsor, and that is cheapesttshirts.ca. Cheapesttshirts.ca, proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers, delivers unbeatable value. You'll always get the lowest price plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery so your order arrives fast. With over 1,000 products and more than 36 trusted brands like Gildan, Jerseys, and M&O, the selection is unmatched. Whether you're shopping for everyday clothing, tote bags, aprons, and so much more, you'll find it all in one place. Cheapesttshirts.ca is the go-to source for businesses, events, apparel printing companies, and resellers, or people just wanting the best deals on everyday clothing. Plus, they enjoy free shipping on large orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes ordering online a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. Boy, I had trouble with that, didn't I? One sec. Yep, we got Puck Talk Montreal, the Cup, too. Now, getting to some of the highlights today from, number one, we'll start with practice, because I mentioned the guys had red, white, and blue jerseys on, but one of the interesting things that was being worked on, and Marty was really vocal as he was on the ice, were battle drills. And so we're going to start here as you see the Jackeye brothers going against each other, which was really cool because, you know, brothers like to scrap all the time. And so they're trying to take possession of the puck off each other. Then the next pair is the two little guys, Hudson and Caulfield. Two guys that are really, really skilled. You watch Hudson here. Whoop! There's a little move, and, you know, he puts the puck between his legs. Eventually, Caulfield did get it back, by the way. And then the next group, you see Laine and Slavkovsky. Now, you can tell the guys that are physical and the guys that aren't. If you take a look at Laine here, he's trying to use his stick to get the puck away. Slavkovsky protecting. And then you've got Demidov and Evans. The minute Demidov loses the puck, Evans, again, physical. You can see the guy shielding the puck, right? One of the things that you want to see from offensive guys like Demidov and Laine is you want to be able to see them actually use their body to shield the puck a little bit more, as opposed to trying to get it away from guys with their stick. Bump a guy off the puck. Put your stick in between their arm. Do something a little different. But no, you're trying to stick lift. And more often than not, we've seen it. If you go a little bit too hard and the stick goes flying out of your opponent's hands, you get called for slashing or interference or something asinine like that, instead of allowing you to continue play because the guy that's holding his stick is holding it quite loosely in his hands. Funny enough, when I played hockey at the minor league level, I had a coach in Outremont who, when we were at practice and we'd skate around stick handling, he would slash your stick with two hands. And, you know, if you dropped it, you did 10 push-ups. I was 11 at the time. He thought it was funny. I didn't. I still did the push-ups, but I didn't really, appreciate it all that much as a young kid. Now that we saw those battle drills, you know that the Canadiens are working hard in practice, right? It's not just battle drills. Of course, there's flow drills going on where the guys are passing the puck and getting speed through the neutral zone and such. And, of course, they're going over their special teams and their face-offs. There's a lot of work being done. And so you have to appreciate the amount of focus and detail that Marty St. Louis is putting into every single one of his practices. Tomorrow, of course, won't be practice. It'll be a morning skate for one group, practice for the other. And so the Canadiens will be in Quebec to face off against the Ottawa Senators. We'll discuss that in a minute. But there are a couple of young guys that I wanted to bring up, or three actually. One of them is Bryce Pickford. Pickford scored 3 goals in his first 2 games in the Western Hockey League for the Medicine Hat Tigers. No replay, unfortunately, of them, but a hell of a start for the young guy in the Western Hockey League. And the Canadiens are going to be watching him closely because a lot of people thought he should have done better in camp and been given a longer look. But given the fact that he's from junior, they weren't really surprised that he left all that quickly. The fact that Prot stayed a few extra days, that was pretty cool. Then you take a look at the KHL and Alexander Zarovsky. Zarovsky scored his first KHL goal, and here's the highlight. There he is bringing the puck across the line. He'll lose it at the blue line, goes to the net. He's right at the side. Boop. Top cheese on the deflection. And Zarovsky has his first KHL goal. And you got to be happy for the young guy, right? All these guys, whether they're playing in the National Hockey League, it's his first professional league goal, whether it's here in the NHL or not. So it's a big moment for him, right? And he didn't just stop there. Later on in the game, watch, because he's coming right into your kitchen here. He gets an assist on another goal as he drops the puck in front, boop, in the net. And there you go. So not only is he making moves and skating in and getting points, but he's also looking good while he's doing it. Very, very strong on his feet, not getting knocked down very often, knows how to distribute the puck, knows where to go, even in traffic. Impressive for a young guy his age. Then we go to Arseny Radkov, the goaltender of the Armada of Blainville-Boisbriand in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. Look at that. I got it right. Woo! Radkov, his first shot on goal. You know what it was? The Armada's wearing white here, by the way. Puck goes back. Here's a giveaway. Whoops. And there's a breakaway. Yep. First shot on Radkov was a breakaway, and he makes a glove save and a beauty. Then later on in the hockey game, the Armada had a 7-2 lead, and Radkov, he didn't just, go through the motions. If you watch the top of your screen here, puck comes to the slot, Radkov makes one save, and then he dives across to rob his opponent as the puck goes up and out of play. That's the type of effort you want to see from a goaltender, whether he's winning big or not. He could have just mailed it in. He could have just turned around and said, you know what? I don't need to dive across to get this puck. I'm good. But he is good. And that's the type of effort, again, that's going to impress people on the Montreal Canadiens. Radkov, of course, is going to spend his entire year at junior, so he's going to have a lot of time to develop. And the thing about the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, while it's not necessarily the best place for defense, the one thing that you can count on is that Radkov's going to see a lot of rubber. And so he's going to get a lot of work. He's going to be able to work on his game. And keep in mind, even if he gives up a lot of goals, in this game he gave up 2, even if his goals against average is somewhere around 3.5, and his save percentage is hovering around 9, keep in mind back, I would say, in 1984, when the Montreal Canadiens drafted a certain scrawny kid out of Granby from the Bisson by the name of Patrick Roy. It wasn't that Roy's numbers were fantastic. It was that he was seeing all kinds of rubber and stopping pucks. And that's what caught the Canadiens' eye. So despite the fact that his analytics or fancy stats weren't that great, the Canadiens still took a shot at Roy because he was good at what he did. That's kind of what you want to see from Radkov. You know that in the queue, he's going to get a lot of work. There's no two ways about it. Defense in the queue, almost non-existent. If he was in the Western Hockey League, that league is a little bit more defense-oriented. You would see a lot less shots on goal, and his development would probably not be as quick. But given the amount of offense that the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League normally, the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League creates, I think Radkov's better served in a league where he's going to see a lot of action. He's going to be able to work on his lateral movement. And at the end of all of it, the one thing he's also going to be able to do is learn how to control his rebounds. Bear in mind that the Armada have an excellent track record when it comes to goaltenders. You look at JF Berube and others that came out of that program. So I think he's in the right place to be able to get him to the next level. And next season, he may very well push for a spot as a backup with the Canadiens, but who knows, right? But it's going to be an interesting battle, that's for sure, and going to increase the depth of the Montreal Canadiens goaltending situation as well. Now, I have a question for all of you. Who you got tomorrow? Could you believe that somebody actually asked me who the guy in red is and they couldn't remember the name of the character? Now, I don't know about you. Even if you grew up back when I was a kid, or the 90s, or the 2000s, how do you not know who Yosemite Sam is? There has to be an explanation here. I know that Looney Tunes aren't as popular as they were when I was a kid, and many parents today think it's too violent because we all drop anvils on everybody's head. But know the characters, man. They're classics. But here you have Bugs Bunny. Of course, he's a Hab. And Yosemite Sam as an Ottawa Senator. So I asked you, who do you got tomorrow? We don't know yet what lineup the Ottawa Senators are gonna put forward in Quebec City tomorrow. But given that they're the home team, I would expect that their lineup would be kind of close to what we would see to start the opening of the season. Granted, the Canadiens are still going to have some guys in their lineup that are still working to get their jobs, and the goaltending is going to be, I don't know who's starting tomorrow, whether it's Dobish or Kapanen, but one of them will. I think that given what's going on, the Ottawa Senators are going to be able to put forward a lineup that's more competitive than what we saw from the Toronto Maple Leafs when they came to Montreal. It's going to be a much more interesting game given the fact that they've whittled down their roster as well. And it's going to be entertaining to say the least. And the Centre Vidéotron, it's a beautiful arena in Quebec. I've been there once, and I loved the atmosphere. It was great. But what do you think? We'll see the lineups tomorrow. I'll put them out on all the socials so you guys can look at them once the lineups are announced by both teams. But what do you think we should see tomorrow from certain players? Here's another thing that I wanted to bring up. At practice today, Ivan Demidov was dropped down to the third line to play along with, I think it was Newhook and Blais, while Bolduc was moved up to the second line to play alongside Doc and Laine. And a lot of people were up in arms. Now, I'm not too worried about it because we know Demidov is eventually going to move up in the lineup one way or the other. And we're going to use him on the power play. That goes without saying. But here's the most interesting part. And this is the way I saw it. And perhaps it's the right move. If there was one part of the Canadiens preseason that we didn't like was the fact that Laine, Doc, and Demidov really didn't bring forward any real defense. And given the weakness that everybody thinks that Laine has defensively, and I say everybody thinks he has, it may be a good idea to put somebody like Bolduc there to be the defensive-minded player on that line. And the fun part is that even if Bolduc doesn't take faceoffs, right, you're going to be able to shift him over to center and maybe put Doc on the wing as well, which would change the variables on that line so much. Right? So there's options there, and that's what Marty St. Louis talks about all the time. It's options. And those options create tougher decisions. So it's going to be nice to see, and I'm interested to see whether or not that line actually makes its debut tomorrow and how that's going to work. And also from the same token, you've got Demidov, who's going to be insulated by veterans Newhook and Sammy Blais. Blais being the more physical guy on that line, and Newhook and Demidov still able to use their speed to be able to generate offense. And I think given the fact that Newhook is just as fast, if not faster than Demidov, that line may very well produce more than the Doc line. So why not try it out and see how it goes? I don't understand why people are so upset. It's the preseason. This is where you try stuff. If it doesn't work, you revert back in the regular season. But if it does, then Marty St. Louis is a genius. I mean, it's a no-win situation for the coach, right? We know this because everybody's going to criticize everything. Every move that you're going to make when you're the coach of the Montreal Canadiens. And that's all fine and dandy. But I like what Marty St. Louis has been doing for the past couple of years. I like what he did last year. It got us to the playoffs. I like what he's doing now in the preseason where he's got a lot more talent and he's making really educated decisions with the rest of his team. And that's what you want to see your coach do. You don't want him to stick to the same old, same old. You want him to think outside the box, and that's what Marty does. There's no two ways about that. So let's give him a chance to finish the roster off, get to October 8th, and decide. And no, it's not a punishment for Demidov. The kid hasn't done anything wrong. It's not a promotion for Laine. They're saying Laine should go down a line. But does that really work? Because we've seen Laine play with Newhook before. It didn't really work out. They very well did it. And we saw a small glimpse of Doc with Laine along with Newhook, and it worked okay, I would say. Let's see what happens when you put somebody who can really put his body into separating man from puck, like a Bolduc. I'm going to keep an open mind on it, and so should you. Give me your thoughts on what you saw from the Montreal Canadiens today, what you think of the roster moves so far, and again, who do you think gets the last two spots? Blais, Beck, Kapanen, or Florian Xhekaj? And on defense, do you think Engstom stays and they carry 8 defensemen instead of 7 and 13 forwards? That decision is going to be made in the next 2 days by the Canadiens coaching staff. It's an interesting dilemma to have, like Marty said. But again, when you make your comments, Don't look at it from a popularity standpoint. Think about the last game Florian Xhekaj played where he wasn't very good in his own zone. Didn't really bring anything to the table. He stayed and he remained with the team based on what he did in the first game. He's made corrections. Let's see what he brings in the second game. I'm not closing the book on it, right? I'm keeping an open mind. You should too. I'd like to thank our sponsors once again, instacustoms.com and cheapesttshirts.ca. And we'll talk tomorrow after the Canadiens take on the Ottawa Senators in Quebec City.